having a nice like full circle moment because my food career started across the street on the 4th floor of Chelsea Market, which is at the Food Network.
That's right. That's the Food Network.
Yeah, so it was a very interesting experience to take the train down and get off at the same stop and walk the same block. But I've never been inside the actual building, so this was really kind of interesting for me. Ever since 10th grade of high school, I thought I had wanted to be a professor. I love books, love novels, still do, love reading, love writing. And it really took failing this like oral exam, which is really ironic because now I like talk a lot at stuff like this. But I just like didn't know how to talk because I was 23 years old. I was really young, and I had never had a real job. So I remember that exam was a pivotal moment for me. I walked out of the room. They told me that I could take it again, or I could leave with like a master's degree. So I decided to leave, and so did a lot of my colleagues, like my classmates. I realized the retention of that program wasn't very high, which at the time I didn't know, and it would have helped to feel less like a failure. So nostalgia for me is a way to tap into sort of a shared experience, I think, and a shared imagination. And so I'm always like really interested in writing about that. But I don't know, with this book, especially, the assignment was to go back home and write down my family's recipes. So there's just nothing but nostalgia there. But I think with the memoir form, there's always that risk of being like really cheesy. And I mean, not that I don't fall into that trap sometimes, but I think I wanted to write a book that made people feel good. And, you know, again, like, even though this is my family's story, I wanted it to appeal to other Korean Americans, other immigrants who have gone through something like that. Like their parents coming to the United States and their cuisine on the family table being a little different from everyone else's. And so I don't know. I think that's what that role plays for me. You know, the one cliche in food writing or food kind of personalities is that when they're asked that question, the answer you're supposed to give, the PR answer is like, oh, I don't believe in guilty pleasures. I just believe that food should be sustenance, or I don't know, they'll say something like that. But actually, I do have definitely my guilty pleasures for sure. Haribo, like gummy kind of candy, like anything sour. I just like, I don't buy it because it's like, I eat the whole bag in one sitting. There was one point when my partner was like so surprised because he's actually like German, and when he buys a bag of Haribo gummy bears, he'll eat it for like 10 days and just like really like take the actual serving size amount, whereas I eat the whole bag because I love
you buy the big bag, right?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know that we have a shared conception of what a recipe is, and when like there's this actually a second definition of recipe as well. It is a recipe for success, like a formula for success. And so I think
a recipe for disaster.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly, like something like that. And I think the point is that when there are actual recipes that people are producing with their labor and their time and their money, there's a real diversity of like answers. And I think it ranges from things like, this recipe implies that it's a new invention, or it implies that it is, I don't know, the one that represents every other version of that dish. Or there's a lot of misconceptions about what a recipe is supposed to be. And I've found, as someone who develops recipes, you know, for a living, and over the past couple of years, I've just really been noticing that people also use recipes very differently. They read them differently. Some people know to, I personally think you should like read it, the first time you should read it, you know, carefully. And I think you should follow it to get the intention of the author. But I also think a lot of people treat recipes as more of like a building block to like do other things. And so, but for me, I think the most important thing is that a recipe is a document. It's like it's an account of a way of cooking a dish. It's sort of like a definition that I mostly got from Nigella Lawson, who's sort of like my food writing hero. But and I think in that way, if I wish more people saw recipes like that, and that's why I'm giving this talk, because I want people to look at a recipe and appreciate it more as something that's really valuable. And it is sort of a concrete thing because it's written down usually, sometimes well and sometimes poorly. But I think no matter what, a recipe that's written down, it's almost like UNESCO has this designation called an intangible cultural heritage. And what that means is it's someone's like knowledge, it's someone's experience, and that's going to go away if they don't write it down. that's why I wrote this book, because I really wanted to write down our family recipes, our experiences before, before my parents die, to be honest, and before all those aunts and uncles die. And even after relatives did die during COVID, I honored them with the recipes in this book. And I think in that way, it's like kind of satisfying. It's like, I know that no matter what, I can flip to that page and know how to make my mom's kimchi chicken or something. So I was trying to figure out what Korean American food is, and my ultimate sort of definition was that it's still being figured out right now. It's so new. My parents' Korean American food is very different from another immigrant family's Korean food. But that reminds me of, did you guys see this tweet? It was like a TikTok or a tweet or something about this guy ranting about Yelp reviews and how the 3-star restaurant is like the one that you should go to because the white people will rate it low because they're like, oh, the service sucked. And then the Asian people are like, well, this is obviously good. And also I think something about like how Asians like are very critical and will never give 5 stars, so that's perfect. Anyway, it was a funny whatever, but I think that speaks to the authenticity bit, which is, I think once you like just go into people's kitchens and taste their actual food, which is something I'm very lucky that I get to do for my job, you sort of realize that it's all a lie. Like there is no one. And I think the more people try to put that on these recipe developers or recipe writers, it limits the cuisine. My editor at the Times, I have a lot of editors at the Times, but Emily Weinstein, she studied, I don't think she'll mind me saying this, but she studied urban planning in college, I think. And she talked about how cities die if you don't, innovate or update them. They literally crumble. So it's sort of, I sort of feel that way about Korean food. And it took me writing for the Times for the first time and getting all this hate mail to realize that not everyone feels that way. A lot of people have this scarcity mindset about how things should be represented and how things should be displayed for the white gaze, or it's very like political. And I try to just do my work and keep my head down. And I don't know, it's hard. It's really hard. My thesis for the book is sort of write down your family recipes before it's too late. And and a lot of people have lost their family members or their parents. And to that, I always like to say as well that you always have your taste memories. So it's sort of like you're trying chasing your taste memory. Even with my mother, we're not like, she'll write down a recipe for something that we grew up with, and then I'll make it and it won't be anything like the thing we tasted, because writing down a recipe is an art. It's like a very specific, like there's like some technicality to it. It's like, the effort of translation is not as just one-to-one. It's like you can't just get your mom's like recipe over the phone. It won't work. So I think in that way, I really believe in the power of taste. Oh, that sounds gross. But, that's like the power of taste memory. But I think your memory is all you've got, and I think that's something that you can chase, and that's something you can replicate in your own kitchen if there's something that you really don't want to lose. Yeah, it's like on the first page of the book, actually. You don't have to read the book, but you can read the first page. On the first page, I talk about running away from home as a 17-year-old, because I really was sick of, like, you don't appreciate what you have, and you take it for granted. So I think like I really feel like it took me to grow up and like come back home to, that's sort of what the book is about, to realize, wow, there's a lot of wisdom here that I need to learn. But yeah, I certainly was a kid who loved going to Waffle House, and I would like leave the house at like 4 a.m. to get like Wendy's, and I ate a lot of junk food. I still do, but yeah, good. I eat more vegetables now. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Eric.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.
This is wonderful.
Thanks,